others too that don't get the message.
Didn't.
Good evening, everyone. I'll call this regular meeting of the Cothet Regional Board to order for 6:30 for September the 29th. We have an agenda before us. A motion to adopt the agenda.
I'd like to move adoption of the agenda with the addition of adding the proclamation request from Powell River Library that's in our FYI as new business item 14.1.
14.1.
That's the suggestion from staff if you want to do that. Appropriately worded. So add with the addition of proclamation request from PR Library.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
Seconded by Director Brander. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? None carried. Next up is the adoption of the minutes of the regular board meeting of August the 25th.
I have a correction, I think.
Yeah.
I didn't even get to ask if there were errors or anything.
I know, because I wanted to move correction before that got mentioned. Just a spelling mistake on 6.1. The Honorable Ravi Kahlon is Kahlon.
Oh, great. Thank you.
And that's just the correction. So I'll move adoption as amended.
Thank you. Seconded by Director Paul. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? None carried. All right. Delegations? None. Unfinished business? None. Correspondence? September the 13th from Rebecca Bishop, Program Officer, UBCM, re the 2020 CEPF Coastal Flood Mapping Final reporting approved. What's the pleasure of the
Move receipt.
move receipt? Thank you. Seconded by Director Leishman. Any discussion?
Pause. Yeah, well done.
I don't think clapping's allowed by the strategic bylaw. All in favor? Opposed? None carried. Correspondence dated September the 21st, 2022 rather, from Nathan Cullen, Minister of Municipal Affairs, regarding the Infrastructure Planning Grant Program Approval, Lund Waterworks System, Feasibility Phase 3. For giving us money. Thank you, Director Paul. Seconded by Director Brander. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? None carried. Chair's report. Well, a little better than some times lately. August the 29th, I attended a meeting with the Division of Family Practice. Just find my notes here. Vancouver Coastal Health was present, including as well as local medical practitioners. And we heard that reported on the state of the health services in this area. Lund had hired a health navigator services, and services are good overall. I had to ask what a health navigator was, and I found out that this was just the sort of person to weigh in and help patients work their way through the bureaucracy and the system that a hospital is. I was impressed. One of the local doctors complained that there is still systemic racism in the health practice in our community. We were all disturbed to hear that. There's still an opioid crisis in this town. Access to abortion is considered a sketchy item, and of course that is always controversial. So there's 6,000 more or less in our community who do not have a family doctor, and that was most distressing. And we had lost 2 doctors in the last month. They have hired us at the hospital a speech language therapist. It's good. And of course, they brought up the navigator again. There's a nurse shortage, which is probably due to a lack of housing. They can get nurses willing to come up to work here, but if they can't get a house to live in, they can't do it. They wanted to assure us that they do not expect closures, unlike those hospitals over there in the North Island, which seem to be closing their emergency every weekend, sort of thing. That was reassuring. They have a program to assist nurses' aides graduating to licensed practical nurses, and graduating again to registered nurses. That's good. That's in-house support for people moving up with the skills and the education they require. So they're hiring more LPNs, licensed practical nurses. The locum midwives program working very, very well. And I think that's about it for the Division of Family Practice. On September the 7th, I attended my last Savory Island Marine Advisory Committee meeting. And I'll say one more time, ad nauseum for the rest of you, they're the best of the best, that committee, the best advisory committee we have. So there's a presentation of a QRD evacuation plan, the tax, the discussion of the parcel tax versus the regular revenue assessment. That's a wharf report, which is going pretty well. And then we get into the negative stuff. Unfortunately, there's still poor RCMP report, specifically with parties on the wharf. The fear is that somebody is going to get hurt, very hurt, sooner or later. It's a wild party that takes place on the wharf in the summertime. There's a problem with water taxi occupying the float to the absolutely detriment of further other operations. And we are probably going to have to do something about that. I'm going to leave that for the next board. The lease out at Indian Point is moving through the provincial bureaucracy. That will provide, of course, a second barge landing point for us. But who knows where it is at the moment in the depths of the provincial bureaucracy. And the permanent or semi-permanent barge ramp lease was probably, which we have now, we're just getting annual renewals. It's probably 2 or 3 years away. And over at the little parklet, there's going to be a bench and a sign going up. That's the little piece of land at the corner of the parking lot we have up there besides the fire hall, Rogers Fire Hall. And we're putting a bench and a nice sign so that people can sit and nobody will park a car there. Finally, on September the 22nd, I attended the Regional Emergency Executive Committee, but the chair of that committee is here, so I'm going to let her handle that when time comes. So, Director Leishman.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been a pretty much crazy, insane month, but the Union to BC Municipalities was a very, very successful event. I really enjoyed the week there with all the delegates and our colleagues from other communities, sharing ideas and yeah, just talking about the great things that people are doing. And I was fortunate to get in front of several different provincial ministers, a lot of meetings. And then I had, wearing my BC Municipal Climate Leadership Council hat, I got in front of several other ministers. And so they started to think that I may be stalking them. So it became a bit of a running joke, but yeah, I had several really good meetings, and we did get a meeting with the Minister of Transportation. So I did, even though it was on city stuff, I did throw in a pitch for active transportation from Saltry Bay to Lund on Highway 101. So the minister was was very appreciative of all the things we threw at him in 15 minutes of speed dating, but it was a successful meeting and a very successful week. I think we had really good responses from all the minister meetings for the most part. So really grateful to have been able to go and do that advocacy. And just to speak to the healthcare housing shortage that the chair mentioned, if people do have a rental unit that they may be currently using on short-term rentals, Airbnb, the hospital will align landlords that have units with healthcare workers. So I have been connecting people that have, a basement suite available, or, as long as it's fairly close in town, with the connection at the hospital, and they will get healthcare workers, doctors, nurses, to be able to stay in there sometimes it's for several months. So it's kind of a nice, very stable rental situation without actually renting your unit out. If some people don't like to do the long-term rental and have someone stay there for indefinite amount of time, renting to healthcare workers, nurses, doctors is definitely that's what we should be doing. So I hope that if anybody is thinking about that they have a suite to rent, a secondary suite or a carriage house or something, that they may just want to take it off the short-term rental market for a while and get a doctor or a nurse settled in our community, then there's definitely a way to do that. You just contact the person at the hospital, and I have that contact if anybody would like it. So I just wanted to say that. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you. Director Brander.
Thanks, Chair. I did not attend my library trustees meeting this month. We were at UBCM, but I did go to the open house at the Whistler Public Library to check things out during the UBCM, see what kind of neat stuff they're doing there. And I've already taken some of those ideas back to our local librarians. So we'll see if they get implemented at some point. And there was a resolution passed during the UBCM asking for more support for libraries. And I know Minister Cullen from the Ministry of Municipal Affairs mentioned libraries during one of his talks. And he also attended the open house at the Whistler Public Library. So hopefully it goes somewhere. Speaking of the UBCM, lots of good sessions. I also attended the AGM for the Municipal Insurance Association, which is my first. I learned a lot more about how it works and how it's performed over the past year. And then we had a number of kind of housekeeping resolutions. There were some other ones thrown in, not primarily, but a number of them were focused on fraud and protection from fraud. There was one thing they mentioned during the session that sounded interesting. That apparently they've got an agreement with Lidstone and Company where you can sign up a yearly subscription fee and get unlimited 30-minute legal advice sessions. So I thought maybe that's kind of interesting if we just have some quick questions or if you want a second opinion. Down Area C, Lang Bay Hall is going full swing. Dancing, yoga, cards, a classic car show, Lang Bay Friends. There's always something happening. And the Kelly Creek Community School Association is now welcoming events again after a few years of taking a break because of COVID. That's it.
Thank you. And I had a piece of paper here. So before I hand it over to anyone else, I have been negligent. Hiding behind my computer. My apologies to everyone. I should have read this during my chair's report. On behalf of the Cothat Regional District Board of Directors, I invite you to honor the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation tomorrow, September the 30th. The National Day for Truth and Reconciliation asks Canadians to recognize the Truth and Reconciliation Commission Call to Action number 80, which is to honor residential school survivors with families and communities and ensure that public commemoration of the history and legacy of residential schools remains a vital component of the reconciliation process. The name Cothat was gifted to the regional district by Tla'amin Nation elders and means working together. To respect this name, the Cothat Regional District continues to work collaboratively with our First Nation neighbors and with all Indigenous, Inuit, and Métis peoples who call this community home. As Justice Minister Sinclair, Chair of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission of Canada, notes, reconciliation will not be easy and will take time. But to make it happen, we must believe it should happen. All people in Canada, including newcomers, have a role in this relationship building process. While we may not all share a past connected to the residential schools, we share a future. We must all call for an ongoing process of reconciliation, regardless of political affiliation, cultural background, or personal history. Today and every day is a time for all to reflect, learn, and grow in the spirit of reconciliation. Director Gisborne.
Thank you, Chair. I attended UBCM in 2022 as well. But before I speak to that, I would like to follow up on the topic of truth and reconciliation. There is an excellent book for anyone that is interested called 21 Things You May Not Have Known About the Indian Act. And I'm not going to go through it, but one of the things that really jumped out to me was the Indian Act created a permit system to control First Nations' ability to sell products from their farms. And that really limited their ability for economic prosperity. And I think anyone that is interested should take a look at that book. It's got some very, very eye-opening things in it. And I'd like to thank the chair for his statement. I attended the 2022 UBCM convention and attended many meetings on various topics. Housing, inclusivity, and accountability were major topics being discussed around the convention. A reoccurring theme was also the toxicity of social media. Later, myself, Director Fall, and Director Brander, along with the CIO, attended a meeting with the Ministry of Transportation senior staff where we presented public feedback on the issue of Springbrook Road. Several options were presented, and thankfully, the Ministry of Transportation and Infrastructure Management gave us the commitment that they would have their engineers look into the various options and get back to us with further information. So I think that's as much as we can hope for, given the challenges with Ministry of Transportation. So my fingers are crossed that we will have some good news and we can address some safety issues out there. On the 24th and 25th, the Powell River Farmers Agricultural Institute held the Fall Fair, which hadn't occurred since 2019 at the Paradise Valley Exhibition Grounds. It was a great event. We are still trying to determine the numbers, but I would estimate that we had more people attend this year's Fall Fair than we have ever had in the past. It was certainly higher than what we have seen in the last decade. I was tasked with coordinating the event, and while there were challenges, I was run off my feet to ensure that any small hiccups didn't turn into large fires. So I'd like to just thank the community and the volunteers and everyone, and hopefully next year's event will be bigger and better, and that we don't have any more pandemics that get thrown into the mix. Other than that, nothing to report. Nothing else to report. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Okay, Director McCormick.
Thank you, Chair. Well, it was a very busy month on Texada. The Recreation Commission met on the 7th of September. And primarily it was updating a number of projects, the regreening grant and the planting of trees, which has been very well received on the island. The drainage issue, which is still to be corrected at the clinic, but it is in the works. And the Emily Lake Trail cleanup, which people are very happy about. The commission also passed a motion to recommend that the board not allow any cell phone towers to be installed on Texada's Mount Davies. The next meeting I attended on the 11th was Texada Action Now. Texada Action Now is a community protest group which comes together when the need arises. The last need, I guess, was over the Triangle Run. And they recently were very concerned about the lack of TELUS service on the island. But two things that they are keeping an eye on, one being the Triangle Run, which is how we're still referring to it, and also the proposed cell tower on Mount Davies. So that is something that is on their radar screen should that become an issue for the board. Also on the 11th, the concession closed. And what was interesting about the concession closing was that they hosted a luau, an island-wide Hawaiian-style luau with roast pig, roast lamb, lots of salads, and Hawaiian music and grass skirts, and all of the proceeds went to the Gillies Bay Volunteer Fire Department. So that was put on by the people who ran the concession this year, and was very much enjoyed by a lot of people on the island. On the 14th, I had the privilege of volunteering at the food bank and filling up boxes with people's various requests. And that was a real eye-opener to see how much food goes in and out of that food bank and how many people really rely on it. I learned a lot from doing that, and I would certainly do it again. On the 18th of September, I attended the annual general meeting of the Texada Island Nonprofit Seniors Housing Society, otherwise known as TINSHS. And they are moving closer to the acquisition of a piece of land, and we'll be doing a survey in the next month to see what people's needs are in terms of housing coming up over the next few years. So that will be very informative and will inform the next steps in their process. On the 22nd, I did attend the Regional Emergency Executive Committee. Community wildfire protection was the big topic. And that same day, or actually the day before, my husband had his hip replaced. So it was all a bit of a blur in there when things happened. But I did attend that meeting, and was very pleased to hear the update on that. On the 25th was our fall fair on Texada, the last day of the farmers market, with pie eating contests and donut eating contests and zucchini weigh-ins, and it was great. And there hasn't been a fall fair in a couple of years, so it was wonderful to be able to see people participating and enjoying themselves in that way. Yeah, so hopefully that doesn't get disrupted again. The last thing I'm going to report about is Tourism Powell River, which was on the 27th of this month. And they talked about the fall destination marketing campaign, which is a sustainable sunshine coast, hoping to attract environmentally sensitive visitors to the region, and want to encourage that kind of tourism going forward. They're also promoting accessible getaways. So accessible facilities are getting kind of front and center for the next while. Tracy Ellis, who runs our Visitor Information Center, reported that she has been incredibly busy, 60 plus people a day going through there, which is huge for the month of September. And they're mostly retirees who are looking for places to go and things to do. Came up here to explore, and she is helping them do that. So finally, Chair, I would just like to say thank you to all of you for my 8 years here on this board, and I'm hoping it will be longer, but you never know. So in case it isn't, I just want to say thank you for a most enlivening and encompassing role. I've been honored and humbled both by being able to fulfill this role. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Director McCormick. One question. Did you attend the luau in the grass skirt?
No, I did not. But I
Director,
did attend the luau.
Director Fall.
Thank you, Chair. So at the end of August, the last Laskidi Local Trust Committee meeting of the term was held, which I usually attend, usually give a short report to maintain connections with the QRD. The main project on Laskidi for the Islands Trust is the ongoing completion of the OCP. It's been a lot slower than expected, maybe not really slower than expected, but slower than planned. Also at the end of August, the dispatch survey finished, and what we don't have results and probably won't hear anything until our board meetings start again in November. People are interested, and they have, I get questions all the time. So they will continue to ask me until I'm able to tell something. I try to say patience, and hopefully we'll hear something. UBCM, one minister meeting, 2 ministerial staff meetings, 2 resolutions from the QRD, and lots of other stuff. Our resolution on asking the province and the and the feds to ban styrofoam in the marine environment was endorsed unanimously, along with other resolutions in the consent block, which was great. Our resolution asking the province to provide one-time funding to water improvement districts to bring water systems up to provincial standards was put on the floor for debate. I spoke up in favor of it, and I think I was the only one to speak for it, and it passed with a large majority. So that was also very good. Otherwise, there was lots of information to learn and digest at the meeting. On the 17th, the day after I got back from UBCM, I co-organized the Leskidi Fall Fair for the 10th year. I wouldn't say in a row because we had a hiatus for 2 years, but the 10th time. So it's been a big job. It was the busiest ever over those 10. More than 350 people attended, which isn't bad for an island with less than 500 people, percentage-wise. And our awesome cooking team cooked and served a community meal to over 250 people, all served in about 20 minutes, and everyone sitting outside on the grass eating together. It's a very nice event. Magical community tonic. Our fall fair had a lot of participation, lots of children's races, building compostable creatures out of weird veggies. The adult team relay races featured a station where contestants were given a box of recyclables and had to put them in the right bin with our waste manager, tossing everything they got in the wrong bin back in their box as they were putting things. So they had to sort their stuff as quick as possible as one of the stations. That was actually very fun, very funny too. And you know, maybe people will get it right at the recycling depot next time. One of the funniest events was the sheep calling. 15 people on the stage behind the curtain competing for audience applause with their bleats. And one thing we didn't do at the fall fair was produce garbage. The total fall fair had about a quarter of a bag of garbage. So that was really good. Last Saturday was the Vancouver Island Regional Library Board meeting. Tough budget discussions given inflation rates and union bargaining agreements and so on. So that'll come forward. People will not be too excited. I'm quite sure of it. But the important thing is that the libraries provide the service that they provide. And that's really important. One of the items on our agenda was the renaming of the now former Queen Charlotte branch, and it was renamed to be consistent with the recent name change to the municipality. So it's now the Dodging Eads branch. That passed, I think, unanimously at the board. And finally, I feel honored to have received a lot of words of support from the Leskidi community, and no one wanting to test the election waters. And so, as you know, I've been acclaimed. I can now watch the races for the two islands trustees positions. There's 7 candidates, and for the election races in the electoral areas in the city of Powell River. It is a big personal decision to put one name forward for public office, and I commend everyone who does and everyone who has put their name forward in this term. And I hope for a strong voter turnout in all the races to get good, clear answers. And I want to close by saying I want to thank all directors and our chair for all your work for the past 4 years. Good, it'll be different next term, but thank you.
Thank you. I have an idea that you should talk to our Let's Talk Trash team about that little contest.
Good idea.
We can work that into some sort of program over here. Very clever. My compliments to whoever thought that one. Okay, that takes us to the consent agenda. This is where somebody gets to pull something if they want to, otherwise we go in one vote. Hearing no takers, a motion to adopt. Thank you. Seconded by Director McCormick. Discussion? There is no discussion.
Right.
Okay, all in favor? Opposed? None carried. Okay, we'll scroll down here. We just cleared, I think, 19 items off the agenda. Bylaws, okay. No resolution, so we're on to bylaws. The Cothet Regional District Permissive Tax Exemption Bylaw number 581/2022. This will be all directors with an unweighted vote and a 2/3 majority, and Director McCormick is itching to do something.
I am, thank you, Chair, and I would move that the board give first and second reading of Cothet Regional District Permissive Tax Exemption Bylaw number 581/2022.
Seconded by Director Fall. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? None carried. And again, 2/3 majority. Carry on, please.
And I would move that the board give third reading of Coffat Regional District Permissive Tax Exemption Bylaw number 581, 2022.
Seconded by Director Fall. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? None? Carried. Onward, and finally, still at 2/3.
Yep. And that the board adopt Coffat Regional District Permissive Tax Exemption Bylaw number 581, 2022.
Director Fall, thank you. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? None? Carried. Okay, and this keeps locking up on me, but here we go now. It's the Coffat Regional District Solid Waste. Sorry,
I'll
you're
move it.
anticipating.
Yeah, I'll move the motion.
This is the Coffat Regional District Solid Waste Regulation and Tipping Fee Amendment Bylaw number 532.4, 2022. Director Leishman has jumped in with the vote.
I move that the board give first and second reading of Coffat Regional District Solid Waste Regulation and Tipping Fee Amendment Bylaw 532.4, 2022.
Seconded by Director McCormick. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? None? Carried.
I move that the board give second reading of Coffat Regional District Solid Waste Regulation and Tipping Fee Amendment Bylaw number 532.4, 2022.
Director McCormick. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? None? Carried.
And I move that the board adopt Coffat Regional District Solid Waste Regulation and Tipping Fee Amendment Bylaw number 532.4, 2022.
Director McCormick. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? None? Carried. So now we're down to the Myrtle Pond Local Area Water System Rates and Regulations Amendment Bylaw number 117.23, 2022. This is all directors unweighted. Thank you, Director Leachman.
I move that the board give first and second reading of Myrtle Pond Local Area Water System Rates and Regulations Amendment Bylaw number 117.23, 2022.
Seconded by Director McCormick. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? None? Carried.
I move that the board give third reading of Myrtle Pond Local Area Water System Rates and Regulations Amendment Bylaw number 117.23, 2022.
Director McCormick. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? None? Carried.
And I move that the board adopt Myrtle Pond Local Area Water System Rates and Regulations Amendment Bylaw number 117.23, 2022.
Director McCormick. Discussion? Director Gisborne.
Thank you, Chair. Well, the water system does cost money, and of course, we need to increase the rates. I do believe that that minimum charge that exists within our water rates and regulations bylaw is a bit high. You know, we charge people for water that they may or may not even be using, and I hope at some point in the future that can be addressed. I tried to address it in the past, but maybe next year. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? None? Carried. We're down to the Lund Sewer User Rates Amendment Bylaw number 194.23, 2022. All directors unweighted, and I'm going to look at this side of the table.
I'll move that the board give first and second reading of the Lund Sewer User Rates Amendment Bylaw number 194.23, 2022.
Seconded by Director Brander. Thank you. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? None? Carried.
I move that the board give third reading of the Lund Sewer User Rates Amendment Bylaw number 194.23, 2022.
Second, Director Brander. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? None? Carried.
I move that the board adopt Lund Sewer User Rates Amendment Bylaw number 194.23, 2022.
Mr. Brander. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? None? Carried. Okay, the Coffat Regional District Cemetery Regulation Amendment Bylaw number 511.7, 2022. This one is directors A, B, C, D, and the city. So I'm afraid Director Fall is out of this one.
I move that the board give first and second reading of Cathet Regional District Cemetery Regulation Amendment Bylaw number 511.7, 2022.
Second.
Signed, Director Leishman, thank you. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed? None carried.
I move that the board give third reading of Cathet Regional District Cemetery Regulation Amendment Bylaw number 511.7, 2022.
Okay.
Thank you, Director Leishman. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? None carried.
And I will move that the board adopt Cathet Regional District Cemetery Regulation Amendment Bylaw number 511.7, 2022.
Second.
Thank you. Thank you, Director Leishman. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? None carried. Okay. Oh yes, we have a new business item, 14.1, which is the down to the FYI, and that's the Powell River Public Library Proclamation Request, Library Month, October 2022. Director Fall, this one's yours.
So I'd like to move, what's the right wording? Move that the board ask the chair, what's the right wording?
I think actually, if I can, Chair,
Suggest.
Our policy says we don't actually need a new word either. You just read the proclamation.
Oh.
Sure.
Thank you, CA. Very well then. Canadian Library Month. Whereas Canada's libraries foster lifelong learning, play a vital role in helping Canadians of all ages access the information and tools that they need to live, learn, and work, enable people to connect with others, foster the development of ideas and a broader awareness of cultural traditions through the world, and inspire behavior based on understanding and dialogue, which are crucial to the success of diverse communities such as the Cathet Regional District. And whereas the Cathet Regional District places great value on lifelong learning opportunities, the continuous building of skills and knowledge throughout a person's life, both formal and informal. And whereas the Cathet Regional District's public library, academic library, and school libraries add immensely to the culture, creativity, and professional, personal, and academic growth of Cathet Regional District residents by promoting and supporting lifelong learning. And whereas this October, communities coast to coast are celebrating the important role libraries play in enhancing the quality of life for all. Now, therefore, I, Patrick Brabazon, Chair of the Cathet Regional Board of Directors, do hereby proclaim October 2022 as Canadian Library Month in the Cathet Regional District. Okay, so question period. Silence is deafening. In-camera session. Director Leishman, one last kick at the can.
Last time. I move that the board move in camera and that the meeting be closed to the public on the grounds that the subject matter to be considered relates to matters covered by the community charter under section 90 sub 1 C, labor relations or other employee relations, G, litigation or potential litigation affecting the regional district, I, the receipt of advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose, J, information that is prohibited or information that if it were presented in a document would be prohibited from disclosure under section 21 of the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act. L, discussions with regional district officers and employees respecting regional district objectives, measures, and progress reports for the purposes of preparing an annual report under section 98 annual regional district report. M, a matter that under another enactment is such that the public may be excluded from the meeting. And the consideration of whether a board meeting should be closed under a provision of this subsection or subsection 2, and 90 sub 2, a part of a board meeting must be closed to the public if the subject matter being considered relates to one or more of the following. C, a matter that is being investigated under the Ombudsperson Act, of which the regional district has been notified under section 14, Ombudsperson to notify authority of that act.
Thank you. Seconded by Director McCormick. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? None carried. We will now move in camera. The board has returned to open session and wishes to rise and report on the following matters. One, that the board will be lobbying the provincial government for more comprehensive legislation regarding responsible conduct of elected officials, including penalties and greater protection of employees in disrespectful workplace scenarios. Two, the board is to retain an integrity commissioner or someone under any other such similar title. Three, the board will be revising the director's remuneration and expenses bylaw by accommodating reduction in pay related to code of conduct penalties. Four, the board will be amending the procedure bylaw to strengthen and reinforce respectful/responsible conduct of directors and considering to link the code of conduct to the procedure bylaw. Five, the board will be developing a standalone workplace discrimination and bullying and harassment policy regarding elected officials. The board, relative to the petitioner judgment in Gisborne et al. Versus Brander and the Cothet Regional District, has advised legal counsel to proceed with collecting court-awarded costs from the petitioners. 7, the board, in response to requests for information under the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act regarding legal fees, costs, and invoices associated with the censure and sanction processes involving Director Gisborne, the bullying and harassment investigation associated with Director Gisborne, and the lawsuit Gisborne et al. Versus Brander and Cothet Regional District, advises the public that invoices related to these items are privileged and confidential and therefore will not be released. And that the board, in an effort to be transparent and accessible, is providing a summary of these costs as follows. Censure and sanction legal costs total $40,654.96 from 2019 to 2022. Legal costs associated with the bullying and harassment investigation are totaled at $46,036.54. The legal costs to date for Gisborne et al. Versus Brander and Cothet Regional District total $37,791.32. With that, we are adjourned.
Have a good night, everyone.